Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking a deep breath and plunging into maybe the most uncomfortable topic possible.
Which is?
The distance between who you are right now and who you could actually be. We're looking at a rigorously tested psychological framework, one developed by a retired Navy SEAL.
And the mission here really is to figure out how to bridge that gap.
Exactly. And the central premise of the source material is, well, it's startlingly direct.
Oh, absolutely. The author argues that most of us, you, me, everyone around us, we're operating at only about 40% of our true capacity.
40%. That's a huge claim. It means we have this massive reservoir of untapped strength and mental fortitude that just goes unused.
And it goes unused because we choose comfort over confrontation. That's the core argument.
That choice to live a life that is, in his words, comfortable and soft, that's the central danger. It's what stops potential in its tracks.
But what I think elevates this from, just standard motivational speaking is his willingness to challenge scientific conventional wisdom.
Yes. Talk about that. There's that incredible anecdote where he's on a panel at MIT.
Right. And this is a guy who barely graduated high school. So he's there and he's arguing with this esteemed professor who claims that at a certain point, people hit genetic limitations.
These hard ceilings that you just can't break through with willpower alone.
Exactly. And the author just completely rejected that. He basically said that relying on genetics or science as the ultimate limiter is often just using data to let people off the hook.
It's a tidy excuse to quit.
For sure. And the source material insists the true path is through story, study, and habit. You have to build an unbreakable foundation by deliberately embracing the struggle.
And looking at his own life. I mean, that foundation was built from the most toxic fuel you can imagine.
It's all about the formula for change, isn't it? The idea is to take pain, tragedy, all these negative circumstances.
Poverty, racism, depression.
And use that emotional residue as fuel for your metamorphosis. It's a powerful idea.
So to really understand the mental armor he builds, we have to look at the battlefield of his early life. It's a story of just radical contrasts.
It really is. His early years were all about this duality. On the surface, the family looked pretty affluent.
I mean, they had a large white wooden house, luxury cars in the driveway.
Yeah, a 1962 Rolls-Royce, a 1981 Corvette. It was the whole glossy American dream facade.
But that facade, it was masking constant severe abuse by his father, who owned the local roller rink, Skateland.
And the sources detail how the author, his mother, and his brother worked there relentlessly but got no pay. The tasks they had to do were just soul-crushing.
The cleanup duties were especially brutal. I mean, we're talking past midnight, fishing bloody tampons out of toilets and scraping gum off the floor.
And the father maintained total control because he was the sole provider. He refused to marry the mother, so she had no rights to anything. She was 100% dependent on him.
So when she finally fled, she was starting over with nothing.
Completely.
Yeah.
They moved into public housing. The rent was $7 a month. The family was so broke they were emptying mason jars full of pennies and loose change just to pay the electric bill.
It's just an unbelievable turnaround. And that internal warfare, the trauma, it was quickly mirrored by external warfare.
Yeah, not long after they moved, the mother's new partner, Wilmoth Irving, was targeted in a drive-by shooting.
Found shot 5 times in the chest.
With a final kill shot between the eyes. I mean, that level of extreme random violence just reawakened all his deepest fears.
And on top of that, he's dealing with relentless racism in Brazil, Indiana. We read about a man aiming a pistol at his head from 2 feet away.
And then finding a direct threat in his school workbook, Niger, we're going to kill you. This is scrawled right there.
All of this was the foundation for his lowest point.
He was failing high school, right. A 1.43 GPA from unexcused absences, doctoring his grades.
He called himself a low-budget thug with no purpose. He was spiraling, realizing he'd become exactly what the world expected of him.
And that crisis, that moment, it demanded a total self-intervention, which is where he develops one of his most important techniques.
The accountability mirror. Challenge number 2. This is where the brutal honesty really begins.
And it's a literal ritual. Every night, he'd shave his face and his scalp clean, forcing himself to look right into his own eyes.
And he'd deliver this aggressive solo intervention, just tearing himself down so he could build himself back up.
The language he used was just incredibly harsh. He'd shout things like, "You are one dumb motherfucker. You read like a 3rd grader. You're a fucking joke."
But that's only half of it.
Right. The other half is the prescription for change. He'd write down all his goals, his insecurities, his dreams on Post-it notes, and just plaster the mirror with them.
So it wasn't just self-hatred. It was a confrontation between his current state and his desired future.
Exactly. It's about being unkind with yourself as a necessary shock to build the thicker skin you need for those big changes.
So once that honesty was established in the mirror, the next phase was defining this impossible task, becoming a Navy SEAL.
Which meant passing the ASVAB exam, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. That's tough for anyone, let alone someone with his academic background.
And this wasn't even his first shot at a tough military path. He'd quit Air Force pararescue training before.
Yeah, he used his sickle cell trait as an excuse to get out of more water training. He admits he was still half-baked.
Then years later, he's working as that cockroach sniper, the pest control tech, and he hits his breaking point. He realizes he's going to be in mental hell forever if he doesn't start walking the path of most resistance.
That's the pivot. And when he started training for the SEALs, he imposed this standard on himself that most people would just find cruel.
It does seem cruel. I mean, if he missed just one pull-up in his training,
Just one.
he forced himself to do an extra 250 pull-ups.
Yeah.
That sounds more like punishment than sustainable training.
Well, and that's the point. As the sources explain it, the cost destroys your ability to tolerate mediocrity. It's psychological warfare against your own weakness.
So the self-inflicted pain is a demonstration of commitment.
Absolutely. You're proving to yourself you'll never quit again because quitting once meant agonizing physical payback.
And it worked. After months of studying, he clicks the final section on the ASV and that mechanical comprehension score he needed.
50. It appears on the screen. He'd done the impossible.
This whole commitment to hardship feeds right into his concept of callousing the mind.
Right. The idea is that hardships, abuse, failure, bullying, they inevitably callous your mind, but the result depends entirely on your perspective.
So what's the difference between a calloused mind and just, being cynical or hardened?
If you approach trauma from a victim's perspective, that callous becomes resentment. It makes you fearful of change. That's a hardened, cynical mind.
But the calloused mind is resilience.
Exactly. When you leverage that pain positively, it becomes an ability to fight for your own life. You stay open and ready for more, replacing the victim's mentality with a champion's ability to withstand what he calls hailstorms of pain.
So once he had that mental baseline, the focus shifted to tactical tools, which brings us to challenge number 4, taking souls.
This is a mind game played in the heat of battle. The goal isn't just to win, it's to gain a permanent psychological advantage over your competition, or in his case, the instructors.
To own real estate in their heads.
That's the phrase. And while most of us aren't in combat, it applies to civilian life too. If you're outperforming everyone under pressure, you set a new standard.
Right.
The classic example is from Booty S. Hell Week. His boat crew 2, they were just utterly exhausted. But instead of collapsing, they started throwing this heavy boat over their heads again and again.
And chanting, "You can't hurt boat crew 2."
Yes. Their pain just faded. They got faster. They made a mockery of Hell Week and visibly embarrassed the instructors. That defiance is a huge tactical advantage.
But that kind of defiance requires fuel, right?
Yeah.
When you're that deep in the struggle, how do you find the belief to keep pushing? That brings us to the cookie jar.
Right. The cookie jar is an intentional memory tool. When you're in the heat of battle, you intentionally recall specific past successes to fight off self-doubt.
So it's not just like, I'm a good person. It has to be specific.
Incredibly specific. You recall, I crushed that presentation because I prepared for 20 hours, or I finished that half marathon even when my knee was screaming. You remember the pain and the payoff.
So you're accessing concrete evidence that you've conquered difficulty before.
Precisely. He describes it as creating a bunch of small fires to become the motherfucking inferno. You use past success as energy to succeed again.
All of these tools are designed to push past that limit that most people think is a hard stop. Which brings us to the ultimate challenge, number 7, and the 40% rule.
The rule is deceptively simple. The moment your mind tells you to stop because of pain or exhaustion, you are only 40% done.
Your mind just throws up a governor long before you're actually maxed out.
Yeah, it evolved to seek comfort. The challenge is learning to recognize that governor and push just 5 to 10% further every single time. It's a daily habit.
But this is where the whole narrative just takes this phenomenal turn. He achieved all these extreme feats believing he was just fighting mental weakness.
But years later, after constant struggles with fatigue and fluid in his lungs, he discovers a genuine physical limitation that made everything he did almost medically impossible.
It's the real twist in the story. After years of endurance racing, he's diagnosed with an atrial septal defect, an ASD.
A hole in his heart, present since birth.
And that ASD meant his heart was supplying only about half the oxygen his muscles and organs needed. He was functioning at a massive disadvantage.
It explained everything. The fatigue, the fluid he'd have to hawk up after every race.
I mean, think about that paradox. He was doing the most extreme tests of human endurance, but running them with half an engine.
And certain SEAL activities, like scuba diving or jumping out of planes, were potentially lethal for him. Gas bubbles could have caused a stroke or cardiac arrest at any time.
The doctor who found it was just truly amazed.
He had to be. This was a man who achieved the impossible not because of great genetics, he literally had a hole in his heart, but because he had mastered his mind.
The doctor said his life was absolute proof of what's possible when someone dedicates themselves to harnessing the full power of the human mind.
It's the ultimate validation for the 40% rule.
For sure. And his medical journey didn't end there. The first surgery failed, requiring a second major heart surgery. The fight is just constant.
Which leads directly to challenge number 9, becoming uncommon amongst uncommon. It's not enough to be great once.
Because greatness evaporates like a flash of oil in a hot pan.
To sustain it, you have to constantly seek new challenges and be willing to, in his words, embrace ignorance and become the dumb fuck in the classroom again.
Always be a beginner at something.
Always. And to maintain that pace, you have to structure your life with military precision. That's the 24-hour mission, challenge number 8.
You analyze your day, timestamp everything, and lock in an optimal schedule in 15 to 30-minute blocks.
The goal is to find and eliminate the 4 to 5 hours of wasted time most people have every day.
And you enforce that with backstops.
Yes, a military navigation concept. You don't just mark your main objective. You mark terrain features past your turn a road, a creek, a cliff.
So the backstop isn't the goal, it's the safety net. It tells you when you've gone too far, when you've drifted off course into procrastination.
It forces an immediate reassessment. It ensures you transition to the next prioritized task on time. Your mind is a weapon, and it has to be scheduled.
So when you dedicate yourself to this path, to enduring suffering and pushing past that 40%, the mind eventually panics. But if you keep pushing,
pain fully saturates the mind. In that moment, the external world zeroes out. You become single-pointed, hyper-focused.
And in that moment of enduring pain can lead to self-realization, a kind of beautiful silence.
Which leads to the final provocative thought. If you choose to live this way, constantly pushing, constantly challenging yourself, accepting pain as the price of admission.
There is no finish line.
Never. The pursuit of becoming uncommon amongst uncommon is an unending one. You only stop when you're dead.